that the residents feel that they're shut out of their own beach.
We hear that on a daily basis down there, absolutely.
What Mr. O'Connell is researching now is exactly your point. Not necessarily residents only, but season pass only. And that will get us away from the resident/non-resident, the legalese that you put up on the screen, that if you're a season pass holder, here's your privilege, you park down below. And if you're a day pass holder, you go up top on the days that we need to do that. And we don't need to do that maybe on a semi-cloudy Wednesday.
Right.
But we're working with the town attorney on that. We're looking at other towns. We're going to be prepared for summer of 2016, especially with a full boardwalk operation, with 2 pavilions going on, well, pavilion and a tent.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna need to have it together. We're starting our season now.
Without question, yeah. And that's
Good
why I
point.
wanted to, I know our commission is starting those discussions, and I want to have those discussions with this board as well, and make sure we're plugging ahead and ready to go for 2016.
You got it. This side of the Peter County?
I one of the, you said you ran into the magazine at Logan. I think I've heard the same comments from everybody, especially out at the Rocky Neck area where they're all backed up, and everyone, their brother is parking cars, who has an extra acre of front lawn, is parking cars out there for the 1.5-mile walk to Rocky Neck, where there is no place to sit on the beach anyway.
Yep.
But Tina Cattell at Channel 8 was on
Yep.
and did a phenomenal expose on Rocky Neck is full, where else do you go in East Lyme? And I was shocked, quite honestly. I'm like, no, don't do that. This is not this is exactly, but the problem is it's not a problem. It's phenomenal that we have the facilities we have. But she went right down the line. You stop here first, and then you go to Hole in the Wall, and then you go to Cheney Park, and did the comparison of what it costs to walk 1.5 miles, or go down here and pay your $25 non-resident fee and park next to the wall and pop your, as you said, over the wall and you're there.
Yeah.
And word is out. I mean, that's my opinion, is that people are bypassing, 72, they get off and they're not worrying about Rocky Neck. They're going and they're willing to pay the $25 for the day, because when you have 5 people in the car, it's great. I think that that's what we're up against. I mean, we created this for ourselves, but it's certainly clear. And Ed, you picked the wrong night to show up, because this is the dilemma that we're going to have: is how to satisfy the folks that are here, 24/7, 365, and then the folks that pick and choose when to come to the shore.
Right.
And it's a great problem, I suppose, in the sense that they are shopping, they're doing other things. Certainly, Steve can vouch for that. I mean, there's people that are in restaurants and places like that. Downtown's vibrant, and the boardwalk opens. I think it's even going to be crazier, but it may give you a little bit more room down a Hole in the Wall. The other thing I was going to say, and you did take care of it, was that the comparisons in the numbers, we are right there, and I don't know how much more you could possibly think you're going to charge someone for a pass, for whatever, you can say it's a day, but I mean it's a parameter of 8-9 hours. So I really don't know how much more we could squeeze out of and make it reasonable.
Right. And that's something we have to balance, and be careful that we do a good job of balancing that. One thing that I thought Madison and a couple other towns did is they had a different rate during the week than they had on the weekend when it's prime time. So, I'm going to open that up for discussion with the Park and Rec Commission. They set their they set the fees in December and January, and then off we go. So
now the only other thing that I didn't. I worked at Rocky Neck for 5 years during high school and college, and buses, a bus comes in. Have we had to deal with that at all?
very little. We went to a bus permit, So
Okay.
if someone's bringing a bus, because a couple of years ago, buses were showing up without any notice or anything. So we send a notice out to all the all the preschools and
Yep.
stuff in the areas that if you're going to come, just let us know so we can prepare for it. And then there is a
Right.
small fee for you to bring the bus in. So we do have a bus fee, but very few people have taken advantage of
Because that throws a monkey wrench into any kind of
Yeah.
parking
Right.
issue.
Yeah. So we haven't seen that yet, Rob, but, Cheney Park a couple times when the Black Hawk is there and someone might bus people in, but she's pretty good about letting me know when that's going to happen. We can make arrangements for that. So
Okay.
we haven't seen the school bus of kids come very often.
All right. Because I could see other summer programs using
Right.
us as
And
the
do
day
have-
trip that you
right.
might be thinking
We did
about.
have an issue this spring I need to take care of this fall, but
That's what I believe.
yeah, it was overcrowded on one day because they brought, they tell me 2 buses, but they didn't tell me they were bringing every parent too. So, every parent comes with a car, and this was actually before the season started. So, it just happened to be a beautiful day, and it was a mess down there. So,
Okay.
I'll
And
reach out to that group.
The only other thing I'd like to touch on is how are we've thrown so much in my time sitting here at Park and Rec with the ball fields and beaches and the amount of maintenance and upkeep to keep these things looking the way they do is a tremendous amount of effort, from 5 o'clock in the morning till many times it's after midnight
Yep.
when these events are over, and Mike has taken up a bunch of that. Obviously, are we getting it done with the people we have, or are you looking to the future for budgets that are going to have to reflect the kind of usage versus what we need to balance?
I think right now we're in pretty good shape with our full-time, and then as long as I can keep those seasonal guys, that's the big, that's
Because
the
the
big
season
thing.
seems to have gotten longer.
The season's gotten long, right? Everybody wants to start earlier, as far as Little League and Babe Ruth and all that other stuff, and they, for some reason, now they're going into mid-November with their thing. So, those are fields that we need to maintain and take care of. But I think we're in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned. We have very dedicated staff. As far as our maintainers take great pride in our staff, and our program people take great pride in, our programs and our offerings. And so, I can't speak highly enough of the staff that have that work for me, and I'm very lucky.
No, I think
to
we're all
have those
lucky.
people that work to work for me, all the way from our office people to Mike to Carol in the office to Ed Ball, our park foreman, to Mike Rack and Jason Alves and all our seasonal guys. I mean, I can't speak highly enough of the pride that they take in their work, and I think it shows out there. Really proud of our parks.
Okay, thank you very much for tonight. That was great.
I have one more question, Mark.
Sure.
How are we gonna deal next year once the boardwalk's open? How are we gonna deal with people parking to use the boardwalk?
Yep.
I know how we did it in the past. Is it gonna be the same?
Very similar. So we'll have another gate attendant down underneath both. So both entrances will have 2 gate attendants. One up top as the car comes in, and then we'll have a system. We did a hand stamp last year that if you're going to the beach, you get a stamp on your hand. That means you had a pass on your vehicle or you bought a day pass. So you go to the right, and our gate attendant notices that. If you are going on the boardwalk, we have to provide free access for that. So if they're going onto the boardwalk, no problem, you're ready to go. We can tell who's going to the beach and who's not.
Yeah.
So, and that seemed to be the best way. I mean,
What happens if we get a lot of people using the boardwalk and there's not enough parking for the beach?
we've.
Have we had that problem yet?
St. John's, can I talk about?
We're
St.
we're
John's?
working toward other alternatives.
Okay, but there's no limit on that, like so many spots for
Oh, boardwalk. and so-
boardwalk and so many
I'm-
spots for.
I'm hoping if we get the parking that we're able to get, that
Yeah.
we can put overflow boardwalk parking there.
Okay.
If people are gonna walk the boardwalk already, it's another
Yep.
200 yards
Right.
to access the boardwalk. So that's what I'm thinking about, how we're gonna manage it.
Okay.
But it's
And the
gonna be
same
an
thing
issue.
is the same thing down at Cheney Park. Can they get into that lower parking lot, or do they have to stay in the upper parking lot?
We ask them, if it's real busy, we'll ask them to park up top and walk in.
Okay.
And then those people that have passes.
But you only could ask them, or
Yeah, well,
okay.
yeah, if it's not busy, we're gonna allow them to park there, obviously. But if it's real busy, we ask them, and most people are really good about it.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Mhm.
But we have to provide access, so, to the board.
Yep. Thank you.
We all good? Dave, it's watching slide after slide of all the activities, all the program you do 365, you and your crew, and all the fields you maintain, programming that comes under your head, even the senior class graduation party comes onto you, and now we've I think several years ago, we handed you the Celebrate East Lyme, which used to be a whole different committee down on Main Street. And, you know, Mike has done stellar work on that, and I think you didn't even mention the light parade. I think that comes under you guys, don't
It does, yeah.
Yeah, well,
You weren't
you
paying
did.
attention.
I was, but it wasn't listed separately. Congratulations. You do stellar work. And we just say Parks and Rec, but it's Parks and Rec and just about everything else in town. So thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
I do have one other question. I had a note and I forgot. The drug and alcohol graduation party.
Yep.
I was under the impression that that was sponsored by the parents.
It is.
Oh,
It is. So we co-sponsor that. I felt it was important that as a youth services department that we sponsor a drug and alcohol, that we be a part of that. So they still raise their own funds, and they do all kinds of fundraisers. They do the events. I attend their meetings and just be there for support, and then we are a co-sponsor with them.
So, but you're not financially
No,
supporting them?
no, they
No.
do it themselves.
Thank you.
It's important that they use a constant and permanent organization, because each year it's a new set of parents that need direction, frankly, to get ramped up again. Sometimes there's parents there who had a son or daughter who graduated a couple of years ago, but they need that constant. And they need the umbrella for the insurance that goes along with this, and we provide that. So, Dave is that constant person that comes in the very next year and says, okay, this is what you need to do. Here's the platform on which to build this. So, again, great work and great question. Thank you, Dave.
All right,
Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Thank you. Now on to business, new business. This is a resolution, a Homeland Security grant program. When things come through, I need to have this board's authorization for signatures. So Mr. Morris sends a note out. The Town of East Lyme Public Safety Department reviews hazardous mitigation plans. That's a different thing. Sorry. There is a resolution in your packet, and basically this comes under account the Area 4. We just did a drill today for emergency operations. We drilled that there was a tornado that touched down in East Lyme, and what do you do about it, kind of thing. But when these real emergencies happen and the state and town emergency operations centers are activated, I need the authority from this commission to act accordingly. So there's a resolution.
I would like to move the following resolution. Resolve that the Town of East Lyme may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary or appropriate, and further resolve that the East Lyme First Selectman is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Town of East Lyme, and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents contemplated by such documents.
Second.
I have a second. Any further comment? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? Thank you for that. Health and safety appointments, it was brought up, and we just had a question, so we tabled this from the last meeting because some of the folks that were on our list were not town residents. But this is mandated by state statute, this particular committee, this health and safety committee. It's not part of our charter. It's part of the workman's comp requirements of the state. So that does not limit, it does limit that you need to put people who are employees of our town, but not necessarily residents. So that does answer the question that was left
Is
on the
the
table.
first selectman entitled to make those appointments without board approval? If the board approves it, then it becomes, what do I want to say, a committee that requires
Oversight and-
people be residents. So I'd ask town attorney if he could say, if he could answer if there's a distinction between a committee that the Board of Selectmen appoints versus an in-house committee that the first selectman might name.
Yes, I would opine that, I'd stop talking until I get the microphone. I would consider that the latter type of committee that is considered in this, that the First Selectman appoints would be an administrative committee, and not a committee which would bind the town in any way, or even report back to the Board of Selectmen. And it's more appropriate to be considered under the First Selectman's administrative functions as the Chief Executive Officer of the town.
So then there would be no distinction between residents and non-residents?
That's correct. There would be no distinction in that case. It's mainly that there have to be employees of the town.
So then, is it necessary for the Board of Selectmen to approve this? That's
No.
within,
No.
that's within your administrative authority, so.
I'd agree with that. I think this became a bit of a tradition on this board. I think Mr. Formica brought this forward a couple of years ago, and we're just following suit as precedent, if you will, rather than me just assume that authority back. If it's your wish, I can just make this approval at my desk tomorrow morning. If that's what you're suggesting,
I think the notification is fine, and I think that's exactly the way it should work. It's administrative, it's town employees that come
Sure.
together to do the safety committee work, and,
Right.
and that's fine.
I have no problem with that. I'll just approve this safety committee tomorrow at my desk
Okay.
and date it accordingly. That's fine. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you, Mr. O'Connell. I'll note in.
Do we wish the names to be read into the record or is
Did we
it
do
not
that last week?
necessary?
Oh, well, we didn't approve it, so, I mean,
It's up to you.
It's not necessary since I
Okay,
approve it.
alright,
no,
fine.
yeah, that's fine.
So, there is a letter of communication that, and basically, I'll not paraphrase, but just selectively quote, this is from Richard Morris, our Public Safety Director, and his opinion is the hazard mitigation plan continues to meet the needs of the town of East Lyme appropriately. So, that is in your packet. We have ex officio reports next on our agenda. I'll start down at Mr. Salerno's side, as I often do. If you have anything, Mark?
Yes, I was at the harbor management meeting yesterday. Just a few things. The river's open. Looks like the shell fishing area has been extended to include all of Sandy Point. The scallop season will open this year. For the last 2 years, it's been closed. It's actually going to be open this year. It's unknown conditions, so it's scalloper beware. And that will open, I believe, they stated December 1st. There was some talk about the dump zones off of Long Island Sound, and I guess there was some discussion that I guess the Admiral of the Navy sent a letter saying that he supported. I guess that has a lot of weight, keeping the dump zones open, especially for EB and the subbase. And I think that the harbor management did send a letter in support of keeping the dump zones. The new harbor management boat arrives Friday. Looking forward to that. There was some discussion about the dinghy dock, and I guess there was some discussion. I guess 24 years ago there was a plan for it, and there may have at the Grand Street boat launch. Whether it was approved or not, we had some testimony whether it was or not, but there was a plan years ago, back in '91. The harbor management plan was sent out to different commissions. These are the updates to the harbor management plan, plus the ordinance changes that they're requesting. They received no comments back from anyone, so they will be forwarding it to the Board of Selectmen for a review and approval from us. So be prepared for that. And they did approve, I think there was a pipe. There was an application from the town, Mark, you mean, Nora, it was from across Atlantic Avenue. I guess there was some flooding that we have on Atlantic Avenue when we have heavy rains. They were trying to put a pipe to connect a pond to the bay. Somehow.
Drainage issues.
Drainage issues.
Yeah.
Right, so they did approve the shellfish and the harbor management of that, and now that goes to deep for final approval. That's all I have.
Ms. Hardy?
Planning Commission met last evening. They focused on considerations that might be needed to update the POCD. They have to do a review every 5 years. The 5-year cycle is now. And then every 10 years, the plan has to be updated and refiled with the state. So with that in mind, they've been looking at various changes that might be taking place that would affect the plan of development. And to that end, Superintendent of Schools Newton was invited to attend and give an update on student projections, including past projections for student population and how accurate those predictions have turned out to be, and to look ahead to the next 5 and 10 years. And it shows a continuing decline in student population. And from the Commission on Aging side, Ms. Wilson spoke, the chair of the Commission on Aging, or rather the agent for the Commission on Aging, to take a look at the other age spectrum, the other extent of it, and that shows a continued growth in the senior population, a considerable continued growth. And so now the Planning Commission wants to take a look at what those figures mean and do some analysis and what types of things we should be looking at to plan for the future. So it was a very good discussion. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Mrs. Cheeseman,
Zoning Commission meeting for last week was canceled, so I have no report.
how about that? Mr. Wilson?
Yeah, I didn't have a huge report. I did have a question. Someone asked me about the scallop season, and I didn't know what to say, but now you brought that up. The question was, there was reasoning for it to be closed for the past 2 seasons, but now it's buyer permit, person beware.
Yep.
Is there
There's no
are there
guarantee.
scallops out there or aren't? I mean, why would they open it if it's not something more positive?
I don't know the answer to that.
All right.
Yep.
That's the question, because
Right. That
that's
is
what
actually
they're asking me is, if it's going to be open, why would it be open if it hasn't gotten any better?
right, and that decision was made by Wellsco, not by the Harbor Commission. But so I'm on a ex officio at that, so I don't know the reason.
Okay.
But
Well, if you,
I think there were a lot of complaints that it wasn't open, and I think possibly they said we'll give it a shot and see what happens,
okay.
see what the turnout is, and
all right, Mike.
maybe
Well,
they'll get some feedback from
That's
the
fine. I don't mean
scalpers.
to put you on the
No,
spot.
no,
I
that's a good
just-
question.
It
And
didn't
yeah.
make any sense to me.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Thank
Yep.
you.
And I guess it's my turn. I had a busy week or two. I'll just fly through a short list that I've just compiled. Yesterday morning, I was at the Connecticut Council of Municipalities, CCM, which is the advocacy group for towns, 169 towns in this state, and it's our voice back to the state and to legislators. Governor Malloy was there and issued the challenge to the opposing party to sit at the table, but I was a little disappointed in the tone. But I sat in on a couple lectures and wonderful resources at CCM. They have a new director, and I expect to see great things coming out of CCM and some great ideas. Seat buses, I may have reported to you folks that we're in danger of losing them. I think I did. It's back on the table. I really kind of, we sat down and talked about the run that we have, the several runs that we have. Seat buses are back on the table. There may only be a handful of folks and residents that actually use the seat buses regularly, but it is their lifeline in this town. And the costs of having seat buses will rise. There's an adjustment of how the towns are going to be, how the slice of the pie gets divided, and there'll be more information forthcoming on that. But I've worked hard to try to keep the seat buses here in East Lyme, and I met with a few of the riders, and there was no alternative. And again, we joked about buying them all Uber cards, but we do have a responsibility, being in a region with a public transportation availability.
Personally, the young woman who is a recent parent who cleans at the museum in the evenings relies on the seat bus to come down and get to work. So,
There's a fellow I met, Mike, who works at Starbucks, and he's just a dynamite dude. An older gentleman, actually, semi-retired, but he needs that bus.
But
And there's
I
many
think-
stories.
I think that part of the problem is it's not well advertised. The
Mm-hmm.
stops aren't clearly delineated. I had somebody tell me last week, what, there's a public bus? I didn't even know there was
Yeah.
a bus that came
Yeah.
through town. So I think that if we're going to keep it, we could make it more effective.
Maybe we as a community have a
Yes.
responsibility. Maybe we need to put a chart out, say a list of bus times when the buses come through. Put it on our website. We do have a new website, by the way. eltownhall.com has been revamped and upgraded,
I
and
saw
go
it.
peruse through that if you haven't already. Again, let me go through. Niantic Fire Department had the annual open house. I spent an hour and a half there this Sunday. It's those guys just stepping up and and to see these little kids just jumping up and down on all these different pieces of equipment and yelling into the microphones and all that. They had a great time. But what they did is they exposed the next generation of what could be our next volunteers. The police cadets were there with a table talking to young kids and showing them what they do, and exposing parents to that too. Because a lot of people just don't know we have police cadets. Halen's Marketplace opened on Saturday. Anytime Fitness had a grand reopening. The tenants to the new Bayside building have been announced. The toy store that's been down at Midway is coming up. Smoochy Bird, which is down at Flanders, Four Corners, that building, that's coming up to Main Street. And Atlantic Insurance, and I should know, but I think they're from Waterford. They're coming.
They are.
Yep,
They're
next to
bringing their
Liberty
business
next
to-
to Liberty Bank on Boston Post Road.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And so they're all coming to Main Street, and so we will have some new tenants. These are people that are making an investment in their business. It's not cheap to move a business. I've done it several times with my business. To move it just from one location to another, it's an investment, and it's a risk-taking endeavor. And so I'm happy to report that our downtown is attractive enough to business owners that they're willing to make that investment. And my congratulations to all of them, especially Halen's, where we watched them build this place right next to Heritage, where the Yankee Clipper was. And it's just a fantastic place. Deke is a great guy, and I call him a friend now. Bayside on Main Street, that building is due to open within the next couple of weeks. So we'll start seeing CEOs being issued for that building. They're working like crazy right now. That 30,000 square foot medical building on 95, the steel is up now if you've driven by. So they're hoping to be open in April. They're going to move real fast during the winter. They're going to close that in and do some work. I had all the realtors in East Lyme come to this room a couple weeks ago in the morning, and we had a 1-hour discussion about what's going on in East Lyme, because there is so much going on. And they're the people that sell this town to the public. And I may have mentioned that before, but if I didn't, I want to make sure I let you know that I did that. They were asking questions about the Gateway Project or the Oswegatchie Hills, where that is, what about the sewers? What about Main Street? What about what's going on with the Bayside of those condominiums or apartments, et cetera, et cetera? So we had a meeting that had some great questions, and we're going to continue that dialogue with the realtors. The dental clinic that happened last weekend it wasn't this past weekend, it was 2 weekends ago. It was phenomenal. I was there at 5:45 in the morning that first Saturday, and there were 400 volunteers chowing down on donuts, getting their sugar up, ready to go help all these people who are going to walk in the door. And I think the first day they served 300, the next day they served 300 or better. And all these volunteers from our region came, and you wouldn't have recognized the high school commons. I don't know if you saw pictures.
Yeah.
You work in the building. It was a full-on medical facility, and with curtains and so organized. And I'm so proud of our dental hygienists and dentists and oral surgeons and for stepping up and getting it done, and all the volunteers. This Saturday night, I'll put a plug in. There's